Thank you, Melissa, and welcome to everybody as well. Excited to be with you all and to be talking about one of my favorite topics, which is systems work. So, when we think of a system is a group of interdependent parts working together towards a common goal, a common task. And so, as you know, we all belong to many systems at once, our families, our businesses, our partnership, teams, communities, our regions. These are all systems that we belong to. So it's this third entity that lives in the spaces between the members of the system. It's like it has its own identity, its own values, its own purpose. So every system has that as part of it. So that's in simple terms.
Mercedes, do you want to go?
Yes, like when you say that, the image that came to me was like a forest and the roots of all the trees in the forest that they are communicating to each other in different way. That's how I see systems, like those thread that we cannot see, they are invisible, but there is there an energy that connect us, a dynamic that we belong to, and it comes, and for me always it helped me to see me as a system first, as all the parts that I am, and how all the parts interact with me in order to show up with all the system that I belong to.
Beautiful. Yeah, I want to build on what you both have said. And of course, for me, a system is not just a group of people or an organization. I think it's the relational space between them. And when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about the patterns, the conversations, the visible and the invisible dynamics that kind of shape how we act and the results we create, right? So something important is that I agree with both of you, and especially you, Mercedes, saying that we don't just belong to systems, we're also systems with all of the parts that we have. So we have a vivid experience of what a system is within ourselves. So it is always a connection between what is happening within us and what is happening in between us. That's what I would say.
I'd like to I'd like to thank everyone that's here because you're participating, and that's exactly what we want this to be like. And I'm gonna share a question in the chat and invite you to answer it, which is how many systems do you belong to and what has been their impact on you? Ghida, Mercedes, or Caro, do you have a reflection around this? Have you thought about this?
I think I can start. I belong to many systems, especially working with, I'm going to talk about my role, working with all of the regions that we have in Leadership Circle and the ecosystems that we are part of, and of course, the communities that are connected with Leadership Circle, our strategic partners, our ambassadors. And if I go to my personal life, of course, all this groups of people and my hobbies, right? And my family. And yeah, I'm just starting answering this.
And
Yeah.
so many systems. I don't think that I can name it. Like I don't have a number for it. There's so many. I was the first thought that come to me is like my first system is my family, probably. It was the first, circle that support me, that kept me safe, and that probably I have learned so much how to protect myself and satisfy my needs first within that system of the family. And for me, that's an important awareness because that's the journey, at least it's my personal journey of development. I really see what I'm holding back in the present moment that is like limiting me, or it doesn't belong to the present, it belongs to the past. Then if I can see it, then maybe I can operate or make different decisions and develop different strategies also to be within the different system that I belong today. in the present.
I mean, I agree with both of you. Oh my God, there's a lot of systems in here. I'm just like reading in a chat
Yeah.
as well, 20 systems, 30 systems. We belong to a lot of systems, and we belong to a lot of nested systems as well, like systems
Yes.
within a system. And they're also interrelated also. So yeah, so we're parts of systems all the time. We create systems all the time. And some systems are short-lived, some systems are long-lived. So systems have an arc as well. They're not there for forever. So there's arcs for all the systems that we belong to.
That's
And
the
probably we are creating a system at this moment all
Absolutely.
together virtually. Yes.
That's the most popular opinion in the chat, that it's impossible to know. There's infinite of them, and that
Absolutely.
also this dimension of conscious and unconscious. So many systems that we don't know
Yes.
about. So from here, I'd love to ask you what changed in your journey and in your practice when you started to reflect around the fact that you belong to so many interconnected and conscious and unconscious systems.
Um, I think for me, I think a lot of things have changed on a personal level and also on a professional level. I think that system work cracked something open, which is I learned to I learned to stop asking what's wrong with this person, and I started asking, what does this relationship, or what is this relationship trying to tell us? I learned that team, partnership, family is not just a collection of individuals, but it's an entity on its own, right? It's got its own intelligence, its own values, its own worries. So my relationship with people changed. My relationship with my family changed. That when conflict happens in a room, it's rarely about the individuals, but rather about the system and what is the system trying again to tell us in that sense. I think that also on a professional level, it offered me something I could never offer before to my clients. So instead of helping one person cope better with a, for example, dysfunctional dynamic that is happening in the team or in the organization, I could now offer and help the dynamic to stop being dysfunctional as a whole. So for the whole system to stop being dysfunctional. So a team that had spent years quietly avoiding conflict could finally start to name it together in the room and choose something different. So all of that, the shared language, creating common terms for what they're seeing, finding that sense of alignment, that is so powerful because you're growing the collective, you're not just growing the individual.
Mm. I love what you said, Ghida. For me, it's a very personal journey. I'm a performance artist first, and then I studied industrial engineering. And what really changed of me is like having the language to build the bridge between these two worlds. One was abstracts and deep feeling and also seeing patterns, but in a different way. And then the other was more kind of like the structure of thinking process and seeing how the process impact products and services and people. And for me, what changed is to how I can build a bridge between my this deep listening that I feel it was part of me, but it was really the system talking through me, and how feeling that feeling like what I'm sensing from the feeling, how I can translate that into questions and language, and also kind of a structure or framework that the system can see them and they can also declare, what is really there that we are not saying. For me has been the journey of having the language and the structure to build a bridge between what I was feeling as the intuition that was there, but I didn't know how to put it in business language or how to bring it to the system so they can see it and work with that, work with that material.
Beautiful. I'm thinking, I didn't know, Mercedes, you were an industrial engineer. I am an industrial engineer as well. And I think there is like, it's impossible for me today to think that we are like disconnected, that you can really just work in the 101 without working with the system. We're not like the little prince in our little planet. And I believe this is very much connected to the purpose of Leadership Circle, because I believe we need to come back to unity and to remember that we are absolutely interconnected. And when I started as a coach, working as a coach in my 101 practice, like I think 2008, and I remembered that I was very curious about what was happening around the person I was coaching, right? And I was like, this person I can ask, like to start the session, how are you doing? Person can say anything, right? And I'm gonna believe my client. But it's different when you have access to the whole system, because then you understand what is the space, right, that is around this leader. What is the consciousness that is around, right? This person is responding or interacting to something bigger, right? This person is part of something else. So for me, it's been like, I am talking very much about my clients and the way I work. Is like, for me today, it's impossible to not introduce the voice of the system in any of my coaching conversations, right? This for me is necessary to imagine my leader and to see my leader in the middle of the complexities of his systems, right? So I am just thinking that it's been, of course, a process of introducing what is necessary to really be the supporter or the mentor or the coach of a leader, right? So for me, it's been super important, and I believe in that coming back to unity is the place where I find I make more sense of systems. It's like we are interconnected. Anything that happened around this leader or even myself creates also a reality and shapes the reality that I am in. So I'm just thinking this, building on what you're sharing.
Yeah. I love this. I love this, Carol. And as you speak, like what comes to me is, and I see this over and over again, right? When the whole thing of interconnectedness, because like when a leader that I'm coaching like walks out of a, let's just say, a powerful coaching session that we've had, or even of a very deep workshop, they walk out with real insights, with a real shift in how they see themselves, how they see the world, how they lead, how they build relationships. But then they go back to that same meeting protocol, to that same unspoken rules, about who gets to speak and who gets overruled, to the same team dynamics. The system did not change just because that one person did. So the system quietly can retrain them back into that old pattern. So that is not a failure of the leader, it's a failure of the scope, because we treated a piece of a system as if it was the whole story. So the point is that today we can't just, we have to create a system approach. We can no longer work just on the individuals. For decades, leadership development meant taking individuals out of the system, sharpening their skills, sending them back in, hoping that the system around them will simply get upgraded. And that might have worked a long time ago, right? When change was slower, when complexity was less. But the problems that organizations face today, that the world is facing today, not just organization, the world, and we see it around us all the time. Today, it's just that we are so interconnected, too fast moving, too far beyond any single person's knowledge or authority to solve those issues that we have. And so the question stops being about how do we build a better leader, and it really becomes about how do we build a system that is capable of leading itself, and a system that supports effective leadership. I think that's where the shift is, from that individual to that collective outlook.
That's good. And the question that comes to me also is how we as consultant and coaches are able to build the capacity of having these conversations, with the decision makers, so they can see like the impact and on the way they are designing developments within the organization. It happens so many times for me. I don't know for you that this individual approach, the leader, this great creative leader just realized that they cannot stay in those systems. So the organization lose that talent instead. I mean, it's good for the individual, but there is so much waste of energy, time, and resources, when the organization really doesn't have this approach of the whole system. And the leader, I mean, it's about founders and leaders that can build that system view, part of the culture of the company and part of the indicators of that company as a must.
I'd love to read 2 or 3 comments from the chat because they are very related to what the conversation is bringing. Amanda says that system thinking brought realization that we are all mirrors and that each connection we draw in is a reflection of something within us. What is this connection system trying to teach me about myself? Then Bledding says, systems make my work more intentional, helping leaders shift from unconscious system participation to conscious system stewardship and designing the conditions for trust, growth, accountability, collective impact, etc. And also Miriam says something very related to what you mentioned, Mercedes, about intuition, that she gradually got access to an infinite source of knowledge that wasn't available to her before.
Beautiful. And I really believe, yeah, Melissa.
Oh, no, sorry.
No, I was going to say that I really believe, because you say systems thinker, and I just want to connect with Leadership Circle and our 2 things. One is our competencies, right, of systems awareness, right, community concern, sustainable productivity, system thinking. And I believe this is the last competency we develop if we talk about vertical development, the stages of development, right? Like the capacity to really go to the balcony and not only you can see the system, but you can design the system, which is like a very evolved competency. And I'm thinking it makes all sense to me that is the last one that we develop, right? We are dealing with our internal complexity when we are teenagers, right? And then we become adults and we want to socialize. We want to belong, right? We want to be part of something. Then we develop our skills, our talents, and we bring our purpose. But then is why we want to do this. We want to do this because we want to serve the whole, right? And because we want to make a bigger contribution, right? So I was just thinking, listening to the comments in the chat and that Melissa was reading, how important is to realize that this is something that we develop, right? It's not like suddenly somebody has systems awareness, right? That this is part of a journey. And as we were all sharing here, our own discovery of how important it is to realize that we're part of something bigger and that we're here to support, to serve, and to realize that we are connected and we are part of an ecosystem, and we have an ecosystem inside of us that we are discovering with our self-awareness competencies as well. So I just wanted to say that listening you, Melissa, for me is like, and the comments in the chat that are very beautiful, that is necessary in this moment.
Yeah. And I love what you're saying, Caroline, and it just makes me realize how much responsibility that puts as well on us. Is that, yes, we are responsible as well to work on ourselves, because everything that happens within us and outside has an impact on the collective, on everybody else, because we're so interconnected, right? It's like systems like a spider web, right? One strand gets moved and it has an impact on the whole structure. And so everything that we do, everything that we say or don't say, will have an impact on the whole system. And so it makes me realize and makes me take a moment to think, yeah, what's the impact that I want to have on the systems that I belong to? And who do I need to be in order to have that correct or that wanting impact?
Yes. What come to me also is like there is no safe way, to go through that journey. As Carolina said, I see as a polarity, like it's a dance between two poles. So there is no other way. You have to go through that. When you are like developing yourself, even if you are in your own journey, the real shift comes when you then go with what you have to relate to others. It's like a test. Okay, I'm developing in myself, and then a test to like see how this look like relating in different system. And let's see like the reactive of that, because I need to go through those reactive to develop certain competencies there as well, so that I can go, and go back, and understand, what is this? What is this for me? And then if I want to make like a different decisions about that, I need to heal something. Like it's for me, it comes the compassion part, okay, we are in this journey of development ourselves, but with love and compassion that we need to is the way. There is no safe way to develop those muscles.
There's a question that that I really love. And I don't know if you want to sort of answer that. It says, please, I mean, excuse me if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly, Marjan. It says, it would be lovely to hear how you go about visualizing the systems to the clients and leaders. How do you make it possible for them to see the systems that they are part of? Um, do you want me to share? I mean, I share when because it can be a bit difficult for them, right? And again, it's the go-to is let's just do individual development. And so I use an actual analogy that I learned from the leadership circle. I can't remember exactly from who, but it was, and I know it was somebody from the leadership circle, an analogy of a brick wall. So if the organization is a brick wall, most interventions are about polishing the individual bricks, but a wall doesn't hold because the bricks are good. It holds because of the mortar that is between them. And that is the alignment, that is the trust, that is the agreement about how people want to work together. And so you can have the strongest bricks, that is the leaders. Okay, they've got great competencies. They're wonderful at what they do. But still the wall might not stand if the mortar cracks, all right, or is not strong enough. And so the issue sometimes isn't the people, but it is the space that is between the people, and that's what we want to work on. So I allow them to sort of visualize what that is, and if we want that wall to go higher, then we need to make sure that the mortar is strong, that space between them is strong enough to hold.
Beautiful. I would say I will be very pragmatic here. Of course, today, what I am offering to the organizations is to work a whole systems approach. That is something that I am super convinced and passionate about. Is like how we can work with not only with these one-on-one investments that organizations can do, but I believe we can offer a more, I would say, a better return of investment. I would be that pragmatic if we're working with the whole system. But if we are just working with one leader, let me be clear, of course, sometimes we start in the organization just with one leader. The voice of the system can be invited in every conversation, right? What is happening outside? What is the feedback you're receiving? Do you want to go and ask your team? Do you want to share what we are doing here? Do you want to gather some of the feedback that is already out there about you, right? Like what people think about you is already out there. Do you want to gather that information around your impact, right? So in the one-on-one, this could be a simple way, right? And of course, when we are working with leadership circle profile, we talk about these competencies that support the connection with the system and how you lead that space that Ghida was talking about, right? But if you have the opportunity to design a program within an organization, and this program can include peer coaching, can include real-time feedback, can include instruments to measure this feedback, can include the interventions with the teams, the interventions with the whole system, that would be amazing. The developing of competencies, right? So of course there is like, I don't know, it depends on what is the capacity of the organization and your own capacity as a coach to really work with the whole system. And that's something that we are also trying to bring in this conversation, right? How we are going to be able to feel prepared and ready. And I just want to close saying that I believe we need to learn to work with our inner systems in order to be a good tool for somebody else to work with their own systems as well. Mercedes, what do you want to add?
I am I have this mantra or a motto message inside myself that I'm always saying to myself, meet the people where they are. Meet the people where they are when I'm going to have like these conversations. But I take advantage, even if I meet them where they are, I take advantage to that they can really see like the whole journey and the pros and cons, benefits and costs of having.
Okay, we lost Mercedes, I think.
I think so.
The moment
Give her a second.
because
Oh, you're back.
somebody's was asking for a workship, but I make sure I'm back.
You're back.
I was
For a
saying,
moment.
okay. With that motto that meet the people where they are, I make sure that I have the conversation and that they can see what is the benefit and the cost to go through that journey without taking an advantage, without taking the whole system, the element of the whole system inside of the journey. I make sure to have the conversation that this is your decision and that's okay. Because maybe the system needs that in that moment. As we say, like maybe they cannot go, still they cannot go there. So you don't have to meet the system where they are and still having those conversations or what can be, the impact of working just from that, from that point or from that element. So later, when you have, results or any feedback gathered, you can then start like having the conversation, but now they see it. Now they have experience about the limitation of working just with the individual or just with this small isolated group. That's my approach. I have this message like make the people where they are, but having the conversation of that they can really see it. It's like accompany them so they can see it. It's that journey of awareness, but that they see it. I'm not saying that let's accompany you where you are.
I'd love to ask all of you for a real case story, but we need to honor time and we still have a lot to share. So I don't know if maybe Caro, do you have a story, a real system, leadership system, implementation story to share with us?
Yeah, I would share that I was working with this CEO. He's leading a lot of complexity, like a very complex situation. He's the leader of an organization that is very powerful in Latin America. And when we were debriefing his leadership circle profile, one of the comments that caught my attention that somebody did is like, this leader has enough space inside himself to lead the company. I adore the comment because it was like, wow. So it is like, it feels that he can deal with the complexity and he already has more space, right? He was leading this easily. So when I began to work with him, I asked him, what are your leadership practices? Because he was managing this beautiful language of development. And he was like sharing with me how he was investing on himself all the time. Like, for example, he was not only a great meditator, yoga practitioner, I would say. He was doing all kinds of things. He was in charge of his two daughters. He was feeling that he had enough time to manage his personal life and this company that was like in a very complex moment. And I remember that I asked him how he developed this systems awareness, because he was managing things with a lot of grace, I would say. And he said he learned, of course, this just with making mistakes, burnout, being super stressed. And I remember that something that Bill Torbert said, that is like a leader in a mature stage of development, like imagine creative to integral stage of development, can support 10 transformational initiatives inside of an organization. While a leader in the reactive stage of development, he has another name for that one, it just supports 0 transformations inside of the organization. So this leader allow us to work with 100 leaders at the same time in the company. We develop a full approach, a systemic approach, and this organization experienced a cultural transformation in a couple of years, right? So what I'm trying to say is like the space that this leader has inside allow him to create the space outside and the possibilities of transformation for the organization, right? And I believe this is the first time I've been, of course, I know very creative and leaders, right? But this is the first time I met somebody that is so spacious, I would say, so open to transformation, right? Not only in the personal life, but also in the organization. So that is what I wanted to share, because what I always want to say is we are the project. I am the project. I start with myself in order to develop any transformation in the world, right? But I need to never forget that I will always be my biggest project as a leader, right? And having this capacity allows me to create change outside of myself.
I'm guessing some people here might be curious about how you managed to work with 100 leaders, but that's something we will arrive to in a few minutes. Before moving forward, I wanted to ask you all about something that we've been addressing already, because it tends to emerge all the time. But I've heard a few times that a systemic approach is no longer optional. What does this sentence means to you, and why do you think this is true, if you think it's true? And in the meantime, I'd like to invite everyone in the chat to continue to participate and maybe let us know what are you sensing as you listen and what resonates with your own experience. I'll be also doing bad cop, okay? So because I really want us to be able to enjoy the time and see everything that we need. So if you see that I interrupt or something, excuse me, but it's my role in this system.
Gosh, we cannot talk about politics to answer this question. I will let you lead first so that I regulate. It comes to what we are living today. That's a must for me. Not just the complexity, of course, all the acceleration of the technology, the anxious nerve system that we all are sharing at this moment, the globalization, the economic uncertainty. What comes to me is that I have like two thread, no, that feeling of polarity, of feeling that something needs to change, but we are still individually finding how to make that change happen, how it can be the agency of that change. What's come to me. But it is that we are creating a future today. It's the present. And because if we really care for that future and the legacy and the new generation, um, we must take part on that change. And what I can do from my own a small island of coherence, as the definition said, what I can do to influence the future that I really want, what I can do from my side, and that's for me a must. It's the high level intention that I have with my work. I feel like most of us do this because of vocation. Do you say that in English too? Vocation? It's from our heart. It's part of our legacy, of our own identity. So for me, it just comes a lot of energy to be part of the change and the future that is today. For me, the present, I'm creating a future, but it's today, this future.
Beautiful, Mercedes. Ghida, go ahead.
Beautiful. I think I've mentioned that earlier around how the world is changing and it's no longer how it was before, and I think there's no choice. I think that by nature we are collective, all right? And we were a collective world before, societies, communities, and then we moved into individualism. And I think we've realized that we cannot continue in that space. And we've got to bring back the collectiveness. And when we say bringing back collectiveness, doesn't mean that I forget about myself, doesn't mean I forget about my needs, doesn't mean I forget about that and honor others above me or no, but it just means that I see the full picture. And again, I see the impact that I have on others, on the world. And I remember and I remind myself how interconnected we are. We cannot lead our world today alone. It's just impossible. And it's becoming more and more impossible every single moment, not just day. Things are moving way too fast. Things are becoming so much more complex. There's so much that we are able to take individually. And unless we start to build the space, the mortar that's between those bricks, then there's no way that we can continue developing.
Beautiful. I would just add that, yeah, the complexity is requiring something different. The artificial intelligence, somebody wrote there, is asking us to be more human. And I'm very excited to be alive in this moment of history. I believe there is a call to all of us to connect and to lead together all of these changes. We are going to participate in a project. And one of the things that the organization is asking us is to support the leaders to work with artificial intelligence agents. So it's not only humans. These people is going to work with artificial intelligence agents, right? And this is the world we're in. Okay, what is the kind of coach I need to become to support this transformation, right? What is the kind of leader that I have to be if I have to deal with technology that is very new, that nobody really knows a lot about it, right? We're all discovering this together. So I just want to bring that this approach is necessary because we are in the middle of a very different world. How exciting, right? I feel it like in a futuristic movie every single day, and I am just kind of surfing, right, with this wave because I want to just support other leaders and myself to deal with this complexity. That's what I would say. And I know, Melissa, you're strict with time. What is next?
Exactly. So I'd like for us to kind of land all of this. Caro, you were saying before that in order to structure systemic change and to make space for it, we need to start with self. So I have this slide that I'd like to share with you. You see my screen?
Let's do this super fast.
Oh,
I
I'm
don't know.
sorry. Give me 1 second. Now
Yeah, I don't know if everybody is familiar with our book, Scaling Leadership. And it's a book that I really like. Every chapter has like a homework for you as a leader. It's not only because this is part of Leadership Circle, but I really believe there is a way to scale and multiply leadership. And we already covered the first one. Start with self. I am the project. In the example I was bringing about the leader, I was trying to bring this, right? It's like if I work with my ecosystem, I'm more able and prepared to work with the ecosystem around myself, right? And if I am working with myself, then my next responsibility and call as a leader is to develop my team, develop the people that is under me. I think you all know, but there's people that would the emotional salary is as important as the financial salary, right? There's people just wanting to have a mentor, a leader to follow, right? So I always like to tell to my leaders, hey, don't forget that you have a call here. It's something that is expected from you, that is develop your team. But then if you develop your team, you have the capacity to connect with the leadership system, with the full spectrum, with the full organization. And imagine how beautiful it would be if you can also lead the ecosystem. You're working with your competitors. You're working with the I don't know, providers, you're working with the communities, right? Because in this world, we are, even influencers knows that communities matter, right? So we need to transform the organization in real time, right? Across the organization. So we have a way, because maybe, and if you can move to the next one, Meli, I believe we have a way that we have found, and this is about one of the approaches that we have of leadership, that is leadership system. And I want to share that this has been a beautiful experience for me, just as a coach, because of course I'm part of the organization, but as a coach, to imagine that I can deploy a full solution that is built by many instruments happening in parallel, some of them. And when you start working just with, of course, we bring the leadership circle profile, and I'm not going to explain all the things that are in this slide. But what I want to share is, of course, we start from a very deep assessment, but then that is like the door that is opening many other conversations. Like, for example, I adore to do my debrief, but also work with leadership development plan and polls at the same time. That is a series of surveys to measure my advance on my one big thing, start stop behaviors. So imagine 100 leaders working at the same time, sharing with each other their goals, sharing with each other their advances, and the vulnerability that this creates, the resonance that this creates in the system, right? It's amazing to imagine that organization when we can have a coffee during the day or virtually sharing, I'm working on this one big thing and today I didn't do well. I didn't fulfill my commitment. Or if I finish a meeting and somebody comes like, I know you're working on your courageous authenticity and you're doing great. That is shifting the culture of the organization. And we have some sessions that you can see there that says leader to leader, because we believe in how we can work in cohorts. And thank you, Melissa, and imagine that you're working within the organization with all of these topics, right? And you're having the possibility, and that's something that we offer in the certification, is the possibility to have all the materials already created. And I'm talking about not only a PowerPoint, right? We have even assessments for the cohort. You have another assessment about trust, for example, that you can see in the deep relationship column, right? You can have a conversation about trust, but you can assess the trust in this system about our perspective of trust, right? That is one example. You can also have workbooks. You can have all kinds of materials and designs, right? So I am not going to take time because we're 10 minutes to finish this conversation, but I just wanted you to know that we as Leadership Circle have developed all of these very big amount of resources and possibility for you to work with a system. And that's been amazing. And what I've been sharing this lately with our regional teams is that, for example, me as a coach, because my client knows me, not all the time, but imagine that you already have your clients. I offer this like, I know this works. And they believe, for example, I don't do a coaching process without an LCP and a pulse, right? It's like, okay, my process of coaching includes these instruments. And people believes, okay, you know what you're doing. This is the way to create change. So just sharing this with you very fast. Of course, we're sharing a brochure. You can talk with our team. We're here to explain you this, but I believe we wanted to share also that, and of course, Mercedes and Ghida went through
Yeah.
our certification of
Yes.
systems, and
I wanted to
yeah,
ask you about that.
yeah.
We promised also sharing a bit on how the certification is. So I wanted to ask you how going through the leadership system certification helped you developing a systemic view or training the systemic eye on what changed in your practice. And also to tell people attending that we will be sharing with you a 10% discount for upcoming certifications or upcoming system in Madrid. So expect to receive it in your inbox.
Awesome. Um, I'd love to share my experience in certification. So when I joined certification, I was already working with systems, as an ORS coach, and I was working with the systems for a very long time, and I was really curious to see, what this adds. And been working with the leadership circle for the last 9 years, and so, and I love it. So I'm like, okay, how is this gonna integrate? And for me, I think it was a full circle moment. So it felt like it brought everything together for me. Like there was a missing link, and this just brought it all together. I think what I loved about it is the work includes and transcends the individual level, moving to a systemic level and a cultural level as well. Like, because the change happens on a cultural level, and that is the system. And so it's a shift in the whole. I loved how experiential it was, and yet it's structured. So it gave me the structure that I need because I love structure. And at the same time, of course, the experience. Lots of deep conversations. And also what I love is it offers a model and methodology that when it's integrated with the LCP, the 360 LCP, creates this, again, ripple effect of leadership at scale that is sustainable. It's not just a one-off workshop that you do and then you go back to normal. No, it's a whole fully integrated journey that leaders go through. So it's the whole 9 yards.
I mean, just building on what Ghida said, because for me, maybe I don't love structure, but I need a structure, Ghida. Um, for me, also, it's a master class of seeing Bill and Cynthia facilitating. Like, I just learned so much of being there, watching and experience myself. There is so much I took from that journey to integrate in my workshops and the way I work. But I love that is all the design and the structure is there. So there is a return of energy and time for me as a coach and working with the organization as well. Also, there is something that I love is art. There is this integration with this abstract word that allow you to connect with your intuition, and the way they do it is like very structured for me. Also, it comes a bridge between these two words that allow us to build that muscle of system, of really being aware of the system.
It's amazing. Thank you. So now we've got some few extra minutes for your questions. Blerim, you're asking about payment. Please reach out to us and we'll find something that works for you according to your needs. I will leave our support email in the chat. And please, if anyone has a question, a comment, we have this 6 minutes to talk. We're gonna wrap it up o'clock because we all have places to be, but we're very happy to have this time to just connect.
You can stop sharing, Meli, so we can see some faces.
Sure.
This is landing on you. I just see my face and Mercedes.
Okay, I'm gonna.
how this is landing on you. What are you thinking? What are you sensing after our conversation? We would love to hear some of you. Please go ahead, Dor.
Yes, hi. Thank you. Um, Carolina, you mentioned this co-pilot things that you worked with the teams, where actually the leader had in their own team agentic elements, kind of like not human team members, right? So it's really intriguing because I work a lot with the AI topic now with my colleagues, and so how do you train? How do you work with leaders who don't have to work with actually human team members, but have to work with artificial intelligence as team members?
I did this question to our research and assessment managing director, and I said, what do you think about the development that is necessary to work with artificial intelligence? And she said, not for everybody is going to be challenging. For example, I have in my team a woman that is fascinated with technology. She plays video games. She's like somebody that is like a geek of technology. When I ask her, what do you think? Do you think it's challenging to work with artificial intelligence? Not at all. So one assumption that we have is for some people, this is going to be super challenging, not for everybody. For some people, it's more challenging to work with humans than with agents, right? Because it depends on the preferences, but also what really challenge humans is not only technology. So I just want to bring that I love what you shared. For some people, it's going to be super complex to keep doing the work they're doing every single day, right? And in this moment, it's not that we have a leader that is only working with this technology. We have leaders that need to work together as humans. So imagine in between departments, right? So the leadership that is necessary, that was necessary before artificial intelligence, is the same leadership that is necessary today, right? We need to see where is the real challenge for each one of the leaders with this technology, right? So the one-on-one is never going to disappear. This is my assumption, because we require this human development that is still necessary in the organizations. And at the same time, here the question is what this new technology provokes on me. Really, not for everybody is going to be the same. So I don't know if that was a very long answer, but I was excited to share that I discovered that, and working with leaders, I discovered that not everybody's threat by this technology. Some people is more threat to keep working with the person next to them. I just wanted to share that. I don't know if this makes sense to you.
Thank you. Sure.
Awesome. What else? Anything else? Anything you want to bring? Any conclusion, feeling?
We got one question in the chat that says, what is the one real benefit in your experience that makes leadership system certification genuinely worth the investment compared with other leadership assessment tools?
Ghida, do you want to answer that one?
Sure. So this is it's not an assessment tool that you've got the LCP as the assessment tool, so you're using that. But what you're doing is you're laying sort of the groundwork, the foundation for the leaders to have that common language to work on those competencies. All right. So you've got the LCP, you've done the assessment, and now you're able to take each of those competencies or whatever competencies that you feel they need to develop as a system, and you're deep diving into those competencies, and you're creating that learning journey, the collective learning journey with them. So that's what it is. So it's a continuation. All right. So from the assessment, and now what do we do? How do we take this forward? You do it as an individual, and then you do it as a collective.
And I would say that the learning journey is already designed. It's just like all the creative competences is there, all the workshops, how to do it. The facilitation guide is there the material is there. So it's then you design with the clients, what is the elements that you really want to bring, what creative competence, what is your journey, but everything is there so you can customize with the clients that you are working with.
I really encourage you to check the brochure that I resent through the chat. And I invite you to stay tuned to your inbox. If our emails are going to spam, please take us out of there. We put so much love and dedication into our emails, so you have useful information. And so you can find your discount in case you want to join us in Madrid in our leadership system certification. Thank you so much, Mercedes, Carolina, and Ghida, for having this conversation with us, and everyone for being here and being present and connecting.